There we go. We'll try that again because I was muted. How are you? How are you this morning? It's Monday. It is July 21st. And now that I'm hearing myself, once the buffering has built up, hear myself back in the stream there. So welcome. It's Monday morning, July 21st, as I said, and this is the Dev Talk Show. And as you see, it's just me. We're going solo today. Not a problem. I've wanted to do, there have been mornings where I've had some code and had some stuff ready and wanted to jump in and do a stream, and always been hesitant to do that solo, right? Because part of what works here is the fact that I have Chris to chat with and Chris to kind of bounce some ideas off of, and it works better when you have someone to talk to. So hopefully there are people out there in the chat space that are also hanging out and able to help me out today as I go through this. Nothing super complex or super new, I think, for what we're doing here. If you saw Friday, we kind of got we got things fixed as it goes for the what do we call that? The actually getting it working again back on my my dev box, but there were some issues with some compile stuff. We basically got rid of some cached items in the browser and some cached items in our in some of our folders, and that seemed to get us back on track. So with that, I'm going down the path of trying to replace some of the things that I kind of set aside when it comes to the metadata and the properties or selection of properties as I define an event and what goes against that event. So that's what we're going to be working on today, kind of putting that back in place. I don't think we completely saw all of that working at any point in time, to be honest, just because of some of the different containers that we had going. And I kind of solved that bit too, of using the keyed containers to show you what that looks like. At least I think I've solved it. We'll see when we start throwing some additional metadata in there. But so welcome. Let us know kind of where you are, where you're watching. I'm going to try and keep an eye on the chat here. So it is me, just kind of, I have it just off side-eyed, as they say, over there, but we'll get a chance to take a look at that. So got my coffee, so we're good to go. Let's see here. Why don't I share my screen? Because one of the things I do want to make sure that people are aware of, and we did mention this on Friday's show with, bring this up here. There we go. Sorry, I don't have anything to put in that bottom box, and that is the way the image is kind of shaped. So I may have to think about that in the future in case I do more of these. But what we've got here is, this is our friend C# Fritz, and he did quite a long live stream last Friday around AI. And if you go to his page and you look at the live tab, it's the first one sitting here around the AI bootcamp. And I think I actually still have it up. I'm still watching through this. There's some really great content in there. And he's just kind of stepping through a repository and a workshop to help you understand how to start getting AI into your applications and building AI applications. So really awesome full day's worth of content. So if you haven't done that before, if that's something new to you that you're interested in, I would just find some way to get started. Go check out Jeff's live stream. Like I said, it's 8 hours, but there is a lot of great content. And by the end of it, you will definitely have what it is a good understanding of how to do that in an application going forward. I've got some ideas for this Project Orbital app, or this meeting app that we're putting together. I've got a couple of ideas of things where I want to put AI in place to help with some of the activities that this application performs, but I want to get some of the basic stuff in there working first. So that's going to be coming. So with that, and again, just a reminder, I don't have a web page for that one, but there is another Jeff Fritz, C# Fritz, all-day workshop, and it is going to be this Friday, the 25th. Like I said, I haven't seen a URL for that, but I would think it is the same time, starting at 10 and going for 8 hours, so until 6, and that's going to be on .NET Aspire. So again, check his channel out at YouTube / or at C# Fritz, and that is where you can go check that out on Friday. But for today, we're going to work on, so I'm going to get rid of this. Let's see, close that. I don't think I need that. That's some old stuff. Okay, let's just close this. And So this is, so this is our Project Orbital. We have it up and running here. It did compile again. I get, a little bit of pause every time it pauses there. But essentially, we've got some meetings. We've got the ability to add meetings. And I'm going to try and click this and see what we've got. An error occurred. So this will be fun. So let's see. It most likely is because I was trying to let's bring up our project. Nothing like jumping right into a stream and hitting an error. So we have our meeting component razor, and that is our meeting page. This is where all of our, this is the actual component, not the meeting page itself, which is down here under pages. And this one here. So when we click the add button to bring in to open up that page at the top to bring in a new meeting, that's where that was where it just hit the error there. So let's take a look and see if there's anything in the tab. Happening here. Let's just let's think through this. Let's do our what's that? Our meeting razor page. If we do the show button for the show add form, that's going to get us into here. And we have all those properties. We get an event status property. Is that right? Let's make sure that's the right, because that is the piece that we are adding. So this component here that I've got essentially is one that I custom created. So we need to take a look and see if that's what the issue is, because previous to this, I had created those items that you'd see, and I've been working on this for a little bit this morning just to make sure that I had some stuff to talk about. So this component that sits here is probably going to be our issue. So with that, there's a previous start date, there's an event status. So one thing we need to check is our core models. Right now, meeting is still hanging out there. We need to move that. Let's just make sure that we do have an event status. So that's a good thing to see. It's a string. That's fine. It's empty. So that shouldn't be the issue. So there's probably something on the actual component itself. So let's go to the event status component. And well, of course it's going to fail. Okay, so why do I think that? So we're running. Let's go ahead and go to our Blazor. Let's go to our Orbital resources and go to Data Explorer. Let's go into Data Explorer. That's fine. And again, this is our Cosmos database emulator. It's running locally on my machine inside of a container. So because of that, I've got data persistence, but I'm guessing I don't have any items. So that's the one thing that we can certainly drive into and fix kind of easily, because we go into, let's see. So we go into I think it's in our APIs. No, I'm sorry, let's test API. API up here. Right, so this one here is our Orbital API HTTP, and this HTTP file gives us the ability to let's see, basically interact with make RESTful calls instead of it's one of the first plugins I make sure it gets inside of my VS Code application. So this one here, we've got a type, we've got a value, we've got a description name, and all of those pieces. So this is good. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try and post this and make sure that it lands in that, make sure it lands inside of that container. Let's do this. And still 7024. I'm going to go 404 saying it's not found. So let's go take a look at that. close that. Do the our metadata endpoints here. So those are the gets. This is the post. That's under the admin section. That's why we have that extra little bit of admin bit there. 404 saying it not found, so that's mean it's not seeing it. Or let's check and make sure that those endpoints are added. So if we go into our program, that's why. Okay, so we did a lot to basically, as I was trying to figure out what the issue was that we ended up solving last week, I backed out a lot of things. So everything we were doing in that branch was related to the metadata capabilities. So I just started commenting things out and going backwards to what I knew was a working version, which is just having the meetings components in there. So that was my way of trying to figure out what was wrong. So if I come here, I do Control K, Control U, that quickly uncomments that capability. And if I go here and restart, all right, we bring up another instance of our Orbital Resources tab. I've got my application here, which is great. It lands on this page. I get to this. That is interesting, and that might be related to, okay, we'll come back to that in a second. Let's go. Unhandled exception. Let's see. All right, you might have to come back to that and take a look. Because that's not getting. Well, let's just do this while that. Really is that causing the issue? Yeah, interesting. Okay. Oh. Okay. Started down that path. Let's go back this way and see if we can finish going down that path. So if we go to, let's close that so we have a little more room to see. So what I did was in our, if you go to our app host, we go into our program CS. This is where we wire up the initial components, right? So we have inside of here our Cosmos DB object. And again, we're calling that Cosmos DB. And then from that, we get a reference to the database and then the reference to the individual containers, one for meeting and one for metadata. And that's because we think about this here, we've got one of each. We've got a meetings and we've got a metadata, right? So that's why we need two container references. But so I create those and then we pass those in to essentially to our API, right? So being able to make sure that those get in there. So there's the meeting, we wait for those, and then we go ahead and get those as references. which is great. So those are passed into, and we're just passing in the container. Previously, we were passing in the actual client object as well, but that seemed like a lot as I was going through this. So just focusing on the container and getting to, so now that we have that, that's the app host. If we go to the API, we can look here, and up the top, we've got our CORS policy, which we talked about a good bit last time, but it seems to be working, so we can leave that alone. And then we have, I guess it was a couple shows, maybe, earlier in July, Chris and I worked on this part, which was the client options and being able to basically have a object, in this case, our Cosmos action, and having that be a collection, or not a collection, but all of the client option settings that we want for our client, Cosmos client. So we've defined those there around, ignoring null values and not indenting the properties as we go through. But then also this one here, the property naming policy of actually using project naming or camel case for the naming inside of there. So regardless of how our property is set up, how our class is set up and the properties on that class, we're going to go ahead and use camel case in the database. And then this will give us that conversion back and forth from this layer, so that if it's camel case in the database, it'll get populated into the properties on the class on this side, on the C# side of things. So to support though, we probably, that maybe, that's probably not part of it, because this is working and it did go. Where I think the issue might be, although we don't need this anymore. So I should be able to do that because nothing happens to that Cosmos DB client. We don't use it anywhere, because what we're focused on now is the fact that we've got these keyed containers inside of our program.cs for the API. So that's the only thing we're referencing, so that as I go down to where this reference comes into play, which is the Cosmos meeting repository, I'm no longer using this. You see it's commented out. I'm actually using from our keyed services, the meeting container, and then using that to pass in that reference to the actual container here that we use as we go throughout the rest of the pieces. That works, and that worked as I previously had that done. What I did not finish, or I didn't do the other side of it, was when I go over to, let's just save that. When I go to Cosmos metadata repository, oh, that is there. So that actually has a reference to the metadata container, and that is assigned there. So that should work. Okay. Interesting. So let's just try and do this. Let's just make sure. Right, those are all up and running. Get my meetings. I'll hit this. This will probably break. Yeah, which I expected, because we're talking to that reference. So what I need to do is, well, we don't have that up and running either. So two things we're going to do here. We're going to I'm gonna turn that back on and see if that works. Meeting data, metadata container, that's fine. I'm going to uncomment that. And I go into the metadata endpoints. We want to make sure we've got this active, and then an iMetadata repository. Which we've already gone ahead and added our container into. In case we'll drop a point there just to see. Okay. All of that should be fine. Let's try that and see where it goes. Everything came up green. Now, I should be able to load this. I don't want to restore. I should be able to load the meetings. Now that caused an error. Why would that blow up? Go take a look. Go back over here. What happens when we call the meetings? Well, on the API side, we call we get to the meeting metadata. Where are you? Or meeting endpoint, sorry. So we've got this, we've got meetings, we got to get. Okay, let's try that again. We go back over to our page and we reload. Why did reload not call the API? Why did meetings? So we're into load meetings. Let's go check that out. Oh, load meetings is down here. Ah, there it is. Sorry. Meeting service and then get meetings async. Where does that meeting service get defined? Well, that's fine. That's injected. That's up here, right? There's our iMeeting service. So that's where that came from. So that's not a problem. So if we do this, we go into here, we take a look. No, that's the repository, not the service. Service is the HTTP services that we did. This one here. So get meetings async. Yeah, we talked about doing that as well. All right. That is interesting because it looks like it's showing up like a CORS error like we were getting before. No access control present. Sorry, failed to fetch. Unhandled exception. So where would that be? Well, let's take a look at here. So this is the get meetings async. This is where it starts. That's going to get all of the meetings. That's fine. Let's go back to the other one. All right, so now we're at the point where inside of our meetings HTTP client, we're going to go ahead and try and talk to the API. Let's see. And immediately it came down here. That's odd. What's the exception? HTTP request exception, failed to fetch. So it's not even, so that failed to fetch is happening in our HTTP client service and not even letting us get to our meeting endpoint, because we should have landed here, which is the endpoint for getting all of the meetings. Now, if we do this, let's just, it probably blew up. So let's rerun. Oh, because it's on the meetings page. Yeah. Okay, that works. We're not blocked. This is good. Okay. Because the weird part is this. If we go to pages, that's web. Sorry, go back up to API, and we run this one, which is the one that will get essentially all of our meetings, which is this one down here. I can send the request, and I get a response back. Huh. That's interesting. Why would it be inferring the metadata service for the meetings API? The body was inferred. Let's go take a look. Think, where would that be? The meeting endpoints. So the repository. It's got to be in the repository. Let's go back over there and rerun that. You mean to register the body inferred as a service? the meeting repository shouldn't need. All right, I don't have Chris, so I'm gonna have to. I'm a little confused by that one. Let's just copy this. Open a chat. I don't have enough space here, so let's pop this out. Cool. Let's hit that and see what it says. I'm not sure. I see the issue. Okay. The endpoint is trying to infer a body parameter. I would agree. I don't see any reference to it either, which is okay. Problem is that the iMetadata service is being used as a parameter in the endpoint, but it should. Those are the metadata endpoints. Likely not registered in the, but it is because we know it is from the program program CS or the API. Let's see. Endpoint line 26. But it's not registered. Ew. Oh, is that really it? Hang on, let me close this, make some more room here. Wow. All right. Why did all those? Oh, because it's comparing the two. Okay, I see. Mm-hmm. Oh, you. No, no. Really? That can't be. All right. Let's go look at it this way. So let's close those. All right. We're not going to worry about what changes the Copilot wanted to bring in. Let's undo those for now. Yep. But I see what it is they were driving at. So let's come back over here. So what they're saying is, can I mean a repository, which is fine. You look at the metadata, not here. Where's that? I don't see the service it's saying is in there. Let's take a look. Where? Replace iMetadata service with iMetadata repository in the endpoint. Since the repository provides the same functionality, which I agree with, but let's see. They're saying it's in the endpoint. It's not this endpoint. Son of a gun. There you go. No, should have renamed it. Oh well. Sorry, copy and paste inheritance. Let's see, paste. Which is the signature's different, so it's this one. Wow, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Metadata tools, data. Data is needed for the repository. Let's just save this. It's interesting is the metadata that came up with the issue, even though we were calling the meetings API. So, all right, let's stop this. Let's rebuild. Come on. All right. Let's try this again. All right, so that's good. So it runs, it loads. Before we go there, let's just do this. Let's go back to, that's the metadata one. I want this one, which hopefully we'll test our endpoint. Let's see. We're in the right one, we're in the meeting repository. That's fine. We hit that. We hit the list meetings. Hey, we got all our items back, so that's cool. So now if we go back to our page, fingers crossed, this should work. Oh, debugging. Sorry, just turn this off. F5. Cool. So we got our meeting showing up here now. The thing we don't have is if we go to, we still don't have any metadata in there for any metadata at all, actually. So if we go to this one, should be able to create a metadata item of shouldn't matter how we send that across, right? Because all of those are in the right casing that way. So let's try that and see if that makes it go. Let's save this and pass that in. We're in a metadata container. That's fine. Got our admin post here. Metadata. So this is inside of our repository. Get a new string because I didn't provide one, which is perfect. We get our results created. And we get our results back. Now you see the difference here is that our results are all, oh, that's the wrong one. Give me this one. Those are all camel cased. And if we look at our property and how we send those over, those should be under core. Interesting. Those are all that. And that might cause an issue at some point when we go to use it. They should be the same, right? Because we're not, well, that's the underlying type. Because we put, and the reason I'm looking at this, because when we put in back on that here, this one here, when we did that naming policy and said, hey, we want this to be camel case, that's fine, that worked, right? We took our information that we had that was all typed capital and made it camel case over there, but when it goes to load back, it most likely will be, so we can try that if we do under this one. So that's our post. If we now do a get, I'm sorry, not here. Got to make sure you have the 3 pound signs, hash signs, whatever, in between. Otherwise, it will think it all. It's the same request: Orbital API host address / API. I think that's what it is. And then cool. To request. Do I have that right? I'll check that real quick. Metadata, endpoints, API, metadata, event status. That's a little weird. Let's try that once more. The requested service isn't running, or all right, let's restart it. Guess what we should get now is, with all the pieces in place, we should have a working instance of our meetings. Didn't blow up. No. Let me turn this off. Cool. That's good. Those are there. This should now bring us in. If I do an add meetings, caused an issue. Let's see if we can find out what that is. Go back here. Hmm. Interesting. So the meetings one went, the other one didn't. Because what should happen is our right. We should get that in case we're into an issue. It's metadata service, which is fine. That'll call the service will call the API because that's the HTTP client bit, and then move that across. So let's try that once more. Interesting. It's not even. So that's my component here. So something is failing before we even get to here. So let's go to the meeting razor, which is where that is. And that control exists. It's here. But when somebody goes evening, Alan. Brackets. We talking about in the API or in the call to the API? I'm sorry, between the delay and me bouncing around to a couple different things, I may not have seen when that comment was. Oh, bracket. Oh, yeah. Now I got it. Because that's not, yeah, way too many brackets. Let's get rid of those. So that should help. Because now this is right here. So if I do this, make the metadata, and we get our item back. So that's good. So at least we know this part works. It'll get data back from the system. My guess is there's got to be some. Well, let's try and make sure it's not that. Razor. Just close that for a second. Kind of running up the top of the hour here. So thank you for that, Alan. I didn't notice that I had put that many in there when I was doing it. It should be a client's fault. That's true. Let's take a look if it pops back up again. But I know we were getting the, essentially getting the, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically just getting the cores issue again, which I think is a bit of a false, a false error or what have you, because the cores is set up as it should be and works and does work, unless the error we're throwing is causing cores to get tripped. But that seems odd. Either cores is going to get tripped or not. All right, so we got that going. If we go and look here, meetings work. We get to see our meetings. That's fine. I can add a meeting because, so the issue is in the control, and it's probably this. So we commented out the event status component control. We'll come bring that back in a second. Let's go to event status. Well, that's the component. I'm looking at core. It's metadata, event status definition. I think we have to modify the metadata actually. So we do this. I think we need these to be the right casing. That's beautiful. Try that again. All right. Save that. Save that. So those are all there. The metadata definition is just, sorry, event status definition is just this type equal to status type, which makes sense. Does it? Hang on. What did we do here? Yeah, those should match. We're not going to change that there. Let's go here. And I'll explain what apply the filter. There we go. There's an item. Why am I changing this? Well, I had it when I was building it out, just have event status, and that is not really what it should be. If we go back to, we're kind of basing this off of the schema.org definition, and I was using this, but that actually is the property itself, which is what we should be referring to in the class. But what it should be, at least as far as what that value is event status type. And if we drill into that, we can see, well, those are the parent or the different types that we can have, and we'll create a different status entry for each of those. But that's, I was trying to get the naming collected together. So if we, so I think that should tie everything together. So now if let's stop this, let's do a save. Let's go back to this. Let's save this. I don't think there's any other that we had out of place. Okay. Let's try and rerun that once more. Before we do that, meetings razor. Let's uncomment that because we know it works without it. So this is the one we want to make sure we can get working. And a couple different things. So there's that. Date, that's fine. Fine. This is when we get into here. All right. Let's just make sure. Hang on. V, display name. Capital V for value. That's fine. All of that looks good. All right, let's try that. No. What do you got for me? Oh. I didn't realize that was a thing. And let's move definition over in core. Sorry. Here we go. Now you're fine too. All right. Oh, repository. Mm. Type. That's fine. So those can be lowercase over there because Cosmos is keeping those camel cased. That's fine. But then we've got these here that need to map up. Oh, oh. You save that. Let's go. ID. All right. And is that a warning? That's a warning. This is an error. T. That's an ID on 91. Okay. Beautiful. And then here. 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 It's 91, 93, 96. Did I miss 96? I did. All right, guys, this is not the glamorous typing. The 104 is fine. And then those are warnings. So let's save this. Let's hit it. And now the endpoints. $54. Warning, warning, warning. Line error. So the first one's at 54. On here, yep. I agree. And then once we get past 54, $60. Type. 60 for ID. Those are the ones at 71. Okay. So we got 260, 154, 1 at 70. All right. That, with any luck, that should be all of them. Yay. I need my sound effects. Forgot to have them in here. They're in the office environment, but not here. All right. Let's see. We do this. We go to meetings. We get meetings. Fingers crossed. We get a new meeting. Oh. So close. All right. Let's do the F12. Let's see what it says. There is no registered service on type event status component. Provide a value for the property metadata service. All right, I'm going to take one quick look because I do have to jump to a meeting. Okay, service on type, components, event status component. Let's go take a look. So it's in specifically the event status component. There's a metadata service, and that gets injected here. Metadata service. This is on the web. Oh yeah, they're right. We had this commented out as well. Well, good call, Alan. Is it registered in program? It should have been, but it is. Oh, now what? Orbital web program. Oh, not that. Sorry. That's fine. Now try it. All right. There's that. We get the meetings. Meetings load up. Get to add new. Good news is we hit a breakpoint. Just try and pull back our, well, this is the uninitialized one that we got. That's the API. I'm sorry, the API. Serialized settings. So it's got to be in the properties, not mismatching. All right, I've got to draw a line there. We got real close. Real close getting that in place. It has. Yeah, it probably is related to the properties, but those should, at this point, be translated back from being Cosmos properties to being properties in our class. So that's why I need to kind of verify that. So I think that's where we are. I do have to wrap up and run because I've got to go jump to a meeting that I'm a couple minutes late for, but appreciate everybody who is hanging around. Alan, appreciate you in the chat there helping out with some comments, some great comments as we were going through it. Parameter should be lowercase. I will check that out. Yeah, what I might wind up doing is just pull that camel case thing out of Cosmos and just keep everything the same, because I think that's what's causing some of my issues, where that gets resolved and where that comes through. But I would definitely take a look at that. Yeah, I think that's where we are for today. I know I can't do a show again until Friday, and because I've got customers all week this week, but we'll see if Chris is going to join me then on Friday, or if he does one in the meantime. So either way, you all have a great week, and thank you for checking out and watching the stream. Be sure to, where's the banners? Bring this back up. So realize that all of these are archived, even as, sometimes it's just us kind of slogging through some code and slogging through some issues. They're all up there on YouTube if you want to go check them out. But appreciate your thoughts, comments, and we'll see you next time on Dev Talk Show.